Sutton Grande. So there's two notices that were sent out. One is Sutton Grande, which is right here, and Sutton Lakes, which is right here. Two separate applications. But as Chuck was mentioning,
We're developing it all as one
we're
community.
developing it all as one community. So that's why we've done a single community meeting to help discuss and talk through the project, both sites. So this site currently, as Chuck was mentioning, is currently zoned and approved for up to 700 single-family dwelling units and up to 20,000 square feet of commercial uses. This property is
It's just straight commercial.
straight commercial zone.
So about 14 acres of commercial zone.
Right. So the proposed request as far as for Sutton Lakes is to do 253 single-family dwelling units, 304 multifamily units, and retain the square foot of commercial uses. However, as you can see from the proposed plan, commercial uses are not being proposed at this time. And then do you want to talk through what Sutton Grande?
Sure, so right now, Erica Hughes with VHB, right now, like mentioned, it's just under 14 acres of straight commercial zoning, and what we're proposing is to convert that commercial use to 250 apartments, which their own amenities. So, and then there would be interconnection between both communities to help with traffic along Avalon Rd.
That's it? That's your solution for the traffic on Avalon?
Wait, if we could, let us finish.
Okay, go ahead.
So, we're building, how much did we decrease the density that's permitted on the property? About 200 units?
I mean, we're going from 700 single family to 557 total
Yes.
residential units.
So 557 as opposed to 700, which is what's able to be built on the property. And truthfully, when we were at planning and zoning, one of the commissioners voted against this, and I asked him why. And he said, because we have a housing shortage in Orlando, Central Florida, and you're not building the maximum density on the property, and which is interesting because generally at Orange County for the last 25 years I've developed, they always ask us to decrease the density. And now, because, the housing shortage.
I think if I remember the context of that, it's about where the density goes.
Excuse me?
About the density location, what the services are, what the accommodations are. I believe that was discussed.
He mentioned on the meeting that the area needed the density, which is why he felt
Yeah,
that.
he said we need the
specifically that
density,
one.
Okay.
and he said
Yeah.
you're building less density than you have, and I said, Commissioner, that's generally music to my ears, because as a developer, obviously, we want as much density as we can fit. We just can't fit any more density on the property, and,
Can we rewind just a second though? I want staff to pipe in because I think the important part for residents and for our media here is to understand the process that this is actually a comprehensive amendment language change and what that process looks like before we dive in to
Sure, go ahead.
specifics.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Jenny Dubois from Orange County Planning. I am the planner for both of these requests, and both properties are located within the US 192 Growth Center. The Sutton Lakes project right now is designated as Growth Center, planned development, commercial, medium density residential, low density residential, and is entitled for the development of up to 700 single-family homes, a mix of single-family attached and detached homes, and 20,000 square feet of commercial space. So the applicant is not proposing a change to that designation, so it's not a future land use map amendment. Rather, what they're asking to do is to amend a policy in our comprehensive plan which establishes the maximum density and intensity for any planned development designated project, any project with the planned development future land use designation, to establish that density in policy Fluid 1.4. So what they're asking to do is to add multifamily as a permitted use in the PD. So they would be setting a new development program of up to 250 single-family residences, still a mix of attached and detached homes, 304 multifamily units, which would be the new use that they're proposing to introduce in the PD, and then keeping the commercial at 20,000 square feet of C1 uses, which is our neighborhood serving commercial category. It's our least intense commercial category. So that would remain the same. For the Sutton Grande project, that property right now has a future land use designation of commercial. To date, obviously, it's undeveloped. It's never been developed for commercial purposes. So what they're proposing is a residential project as they said, that are actually tied together. But the commercial designated property, we're proposing up to 250 multifamily units, and they're requesting the growth center plan development medium high density residential category. So this is a large scale future land use map amendment. So this requires 2 sets of public hearings. So right now we're in the first stage, which is the transmittal phase. The public hearing that's coming up on March 7th is the transmittal public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners, where the board will vote whether or not to transmit this amendment to the state. If the 2 amendments are actually transmitted, then they will come back for their second set of hearings, which are the adoption public hearings, where we will also be considering for the Sutton Grande property, a rezoning of the property from A1 Citrus Rural District to PD Plan Development District. So that will have public hearings before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners in conjunction with the proposed future land use change. And then for the larger property, the Sutton Grande property, the board will consider a substantial change to the current PD land use plan to change the entitlement mix from the 700 single-family units and the 20,000 square feet of commercial, and set the new requested mixed-use development program. And that would be heard concurrently with the proposed text amendment at the BCC adoption hearing. So
in general, we are,
Let her finish.
oh, I thought you were done, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, I was. So
You're done?
And you jumped in, so I wanted to make sure.
Oh, no,
But
no, no,
actually,
thank
that was
you.
really- It was really informative, and it's important because the first board that that Mr. Whittle was talking about was actually the planning and zoning, or I think it was actually the LPA, right?
LPA.
And so that's a different board. So that's, one board. The Board of County Commission, which I'm District 1 Commissioner for, is a different board. So this process includes both boards and then 2 transmittals and 2 public hearings. So I really want to make sure that, because it's, even for people that do this every day, it's
Exactly.
very thick and complex, and I want to make sure that we're explaining the process each step of the way. I think it's the easiest way to get questions answered. So hopefully, if that was it from our planning folks, then we can move into
Yeah, it's a complex process. Even I have to ask her all the time, where are we at, what are we doing? Because it's a confusing process to get this done, and there's several hearings involved in it. But in general, we are taking the density and reducing it from what's allowed on the property. We are reducing the number of trips. When you talk about traffic, which I'll tell you what the solution is, what's happening in the area for traffic, but we are reducing by 287 trips of what currently can go on the property. So I know a lot of people think, how are you reducing traffic? Because it's going to create more traffic. What's allowed to go on it right now, if we build exactly what's on it, can go on the property, will create more traffic than what we're asking for today. So the residential, we plan on it. We have estate lots that are going to be on the lake. We have townhome lots that are going to be a buffer between the estate homes and the apartments. And then here, that was zoned for commercial, is going to be an extension of our apartments coming around this wetland area. And, our logic for not doing retail here is several-fold. One is, we do a lot of retail. So if there's a retail play here, we would certainly do retail. We build 1 million square feet of retail a year. But just up to the north, there's a new shopping center, 4 minutes, we just passed it, 4 minutes away under construction, which I think is going to be Amazon grocery. I'm not sure, it's a grocery store and retail. Directly across the street, Disney is doing a big retail development with commercial. So the grocery stores that are in our market are here. So it's not another grocery store to be here. And the small retail generally wants to be around an anchor, which would be a grocery store. So it didn't make sense to take this piece right here and do commercial on it, plus the residential on it will create less trips, and it creates a need that we have in Orange County for residential. So it becomes a very nice residential project with townhomes, estate homes, and apartment homes. As far as the traffic, we are building less than what's entitled to go on the property, so we meet the traffic requirements already by right. But what we are doing is working with the county, and the county is widening this road. They're in the process of doing land acquisitions, and we're talking to the county about that. We're part of that they're gonna widen the road here. And they're also talking to us.
When, I don't mean to interrupt, but when would that be?
I'm not sure. Do you know when, I mean, I know we're in discussions right now when they're gonna actually widen the road.
Well, right
Some
now,
kind of year?
right now they're doing the roadway conceptual analysis. So right now it's in the design phase. There was a work session before the local planning agency 2 weeks ago.
Actually, did you come to the public, we didn't have a public meeting on that segment.
You did?
of-
Oh.
But according to that, it was like 2028, 2020.
Yeah.
2:30, I gotta work.
No, I remember it was a evening meeting up in Independence, I think, which I thought was kind of interesting since it's
Yes.
the last piece of the Avalon. But I can get you the notes from that meeting also, so that you can
Okay.
see
I'd love
the
that.
transportation department's timeline we do have.
You're right. I was at the meeting. It's 10 years.
10 years. 10 years.
I live off Sand Lake Road, and it takes a long time. I mean, the timelines are crazy. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys drive to Tampa? I go to South Florida often. And
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with it. This
well,
is
no,
all
it's
being
just this, what I'm saying
just
is,
built.
this whole process, we don't build it. The whole process in transportation is just a lengthy process, and it's frustrating to anybody who drives on any of these roads, I understand. And
But I think what the residents want to make sure the developers understand is that sometimes the lopsidedness of it is that private development doesn't have to go through the county procurement process, doesn't have to really, once they're past this part, doesn't have the onus to taxpayers to really make sure that we're doing the most with those tax dollars, which is what takes a long time. So a lot of times that private development is done first, and then everyone ends up having to wait for the infrastructure part of it, and they're really feeling that out here. So
Yeah.
when someone talks about switching anything that was intended or planned to be or spoken about in any setting from commercial to residential, and especially multifamily, dense, there's a lot of concern that we're already without enough infrastructure. I mean, you're in a brand new school, and you saw the portables coming in, and the principal has, we've talked about their traffic concerns here, because that's a safety issue. So their concerns are not with the policies across the state or what's happening on I-4, it's about what's happening in their backyard and their neighborhood with their kids. So I just want to be
And that's why I was
aware.
making the point to you all, is that if we don't do any of these meetings and we just go permit what we're allowed to build, it creates 287 more trips than what we're proposing.
You would still have to rezone if it was ag.
Well,
But none of, or,
no, it's a future land
there's,
use.
yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, like, there's no skipping, I mean, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that you're looking at projects that could fit better, but I think you just made an assertion that you would zoom right through.
Well, it
any
wouldn't be the
approval
year and a
process.
half process, it would be half
Okay,
that.
that's fair, yeah.
So, I mean, our process is a year and a half right now, and if we went through the process to do what's approved on the property with the future land use, it would create 287 more trips than we're creating, and it would be an expedited process. It's not the right use to do here, that's why we're going through the process. But, at the end of the day, we're gonna create less trips than could have been created. I understand your issue, we want the road now. And, I mean, we want the road now too, it's better for us.
At 6:40, I leave in the morning to go to work. I'm lot 1 on Arrowhead, that little box on the bottom there. So I'm right next to your property. Yep, that one. And I have to wait 10 minutes just to get out of my driveway. That's how much traffic is on Arrowhead to get to Avalon. The Disney employees that start at 7, they're backed up down my street all the way. And I can't even get out of my driveway. I mean, I think that's just, I don't know what to say to that.
I can tell you from being a lifelong resident in Orange County, unfortunately, the roads are
I've lived there for 22 years.
always behind the development, and it's just, we're growing so fast. We have 1,000 people a week moving into Orange County, Florida. We have 1,000 people a day moving into the state of Florida, and the growth is outpacing the construction of the roads, and that's happening.
But I think that they want you to be sensitive to
Well, of
that on the
course I am.
side of the person who's saying, what I want to do is change the use and increase the amount of people that are living in this square mile.
You know, you've got developments just across the road of Avalon. The Grove is developing, I mean, you're not even showing what is proposed just across the street. I mean, I know that has nothing to do with this, but
Yeah,
what's just across the street from the Sutton Lakes development and the Grand, is just phenomenal. I mean, you're adding 2 cars per residence, multifamily or not, just let's say 2 cars per, that's another 1,000 cars, and so on and so on and so on. It's just gonna be gridlock, total gridlock.
I am completely sensitive to that, and that's something that should be discussed with the county traffic engineer, whether they can accelerate it. I mean, we've been trying to get,
Well,
I understand that.
right, I was gonna say, that's not really fair either, because a lot of these agreements require the developer to get their piece paid into once it's at 60% completion, which means residents by contract are already in their residence by the time
Yeah, I mean,
they kick in for their public purpose,
it's,
so it's a little more delicate than
It's a
that.
tough process. I mean, they rely on our dollars.
To build those roads. I mean, we fund
Yeah,
it.
our
We build their
dollars,
roads.
yes, our dollars,
It's development dollars that are funding these roads, and
get the impact fees.
so I understand it's a
Yeah, I
frustrating
mean,
process.
I'm a contractor, I'm a builder, I understand exactly what's going on, but I just think the road is a vital issue. Safety, fire engine, we don't even have a fire department. My neighborhood has it's Osceola County that has to service us, and the fire department's this big. There's not even, where's the next firehouse coming in?
We have
That's
4
gonna
in District
service
1
that
coming
development.
online this year.
Where's the fire department that's gonna serve Sutton Lakes?
It's actually right now in a strip mall on 192 on the Orange County side.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah, that is just a temporary location. We have 4 parcels and they're all being built, but it does, once again, it takes time. Listen, I hear you, and on that side, I try really hard to make sure that every last,
Infrastructure first.
I
don't care how much.
I am in agreement with you, but I am
I
one
don't
member
care
of a
how much the
board
county
that-
gets on impact
We
fees.
understand it's a traffic issue.
Infrastructure first.
I would love to see all that happen too. I understand. Aside from traffic, anybody have any other questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Fraser Howe. I live up in Hamlin, although I've been a resident of Southwest Orange County for more than 30 years. I'm also a professional engineer working in transportation planning, so I've watched this area get planned. And I'm concerned about the change from commercial to more residential on the Sutton Grande property. While you're right, you're going to have big stores, a drive up the road, I think it would sure be beneficial to have smaller stores within walking distance for both your community and communities across Avalon Road. And I think it would be the kind of retail businesses that folks might want to stop at on their way home from work or walk to. So I think it would be better use in the long run and the overall planning for the area for it to remain a commercial retail site.
So, for what I've done for 25 years, it won't be successful there. We won't be able to compete with what's being built up the street. We've got thousands of tenants who rent space from us, and I can tell you on something that's this small to build on, to try to get local neighborhood shops, they won't survive. They have to be near an anchor, they have to be where the traffic is. And just around the corner here, I built the Mark. You saw we could build a critical mass of space. It was, we were able to fit 100 and something thousand square feet there, so it worked. We would not be able to get the critical mass here to make it work and compete with what Disney's doing, about to start on their property, the development that's happening just up the street. And I'm just telling you, I could walk in my office and say, Taylor, we're gonna build commercial here, lease it up. We wouldn't be able to lease it up, and it wouldn't be successful. The demand here, the highest and best use is for residential. The commercial needs are already met right here and here within a 5-minute drive of the site. And this is not a walkable road. It's not like a town center that people are walking here. And I understand your opinion, but this is what I do a year. We build 15, 20 shopping centers a year. And I would certainly put a shopping center here if I thought it would be successful, but I know it would not be successful as a shopping center.
Well, I'm just looking at I just went to the New York Beer Project. It's
I built that.
Sidell Road. And to me, I think that might be about the same size development that you're talking about here, and it looks like it's a pretty successful group of small stores and retail in that location.
So we own that project, and we cannot fit not even half the density of that project here. And that project, if you look at it, all the streets are interconnected with all the neighborhoods, and it is walkable. It's just a different animal, and I mean, I would certainly do that. I mean, I wouldn't have to be in front of you today. I would just go design buildings and get a permit. We just don't think it's the proper use here, and we really see this as a big community piece. You know, we're gonna have to give up land across the front of this, and I don't think we'd be able to park a retail project here, and it creates more traffic on the roads. So if I just went in today and did that, that's gonna be more traffic than what we're proposing today. But I appreciate your opinion on that. Is there other questions?
I got more statement. We've seen this. I think the reason why you're getting these questions from folks and Dustin Planner and the owners, if you just hear me out. We've seen brief after brief after brief, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts. You're talking about your project in this area. It's not gonna have any impacts. It's gonna be good. You can add more homes. Maybe for Orlando. For Horizon West, we're done with more homes. There's so many things that can go. So many things. What do we need? Schools. We have so many people here that our schools are overcrowded as soon as they open. As soon as they open. This school here is like 2 years old. This middle school is getting built, and it's going to be overcrowded as soon as it opens. This is going to happen to those things, right? Like you're looking at it in your little foxhole. But they're right. There's 2 apartments that are just down the street that are going to get built, and you're not considering that traffic in what you're talking about. The shopping that you're talking about further up north, that doesn't even satisfy people that are here now. Like those things are to satisfy people in other areas, not this. I think this would do exceptionally well. We have a restaurant that serves toast for $16, and it does it well. People will spend money there. So don't tell me that it ain't gonna succeed. Toast for $16, and we're buying it here? Anything to do well. I'm not lying. And I'm about there too, because we don't have options.
So you're
We
about to
don't.
get about 1 million square feet of options that are opening up.
It ain't enough. It ain't enough. Horizon West is a different beast, I'm telling you. Folks go out all the time. We're not in your standard model of how many times an average person goes out. People here go out all the time. Example,
Okay.
you put that restaurant downtown Orlando, is someone to buy toast for $16? My point is, we had a death on Avalon. We have multiple other multifamily homes that we got the same brief. Traffic's not gonna increase. No, hey, we're gonna help build the roads. I mean, you just said the roads gonna get widened. It's not gonna get widened for 10 years. You're gonna endanger people for the next 10 years? We had a death. I wanna talk to you. We had a death next to my son's elementary school last year, a traffic accident. Last week, a kid, a middle schooler, got hit. Is in critical condition. Guys, I understand the business side of it. I do. And I empathize with you. I think what we're asking is, keep the plan the same. You're gonna need money. I don't care what you do. Just keep it the same. Don't go with these multifamily homes. Whatever's on the plan, build it. We'll shop. We'll spend money. You will be successful. This is greed.
No, it's not, actually. We're building
This-
less density. Excuse me, we're
I
building
would
less
ask you-
density.
Oh,
Let me tell you, I feel the pain
RC.
of a kid getting hit
And I
and
would-
killed, but we're building less
Guys,
density.
I would say
So if
it
I can
would
talk for a
hurt
minute, if
our
I can talk for a
safety in
minute,
the area.
we're building less density than it's approved on here. When you say keep it as is, what you're really saying is build more trips and more traffic
No, I'm saying
than
build
what we're
shopping.
proposing today. And as far as the shopping, you've got 1 million square feet more coming. Yes, I know Horizon West. I built West Side and Horizon West. Where the Panera Bread is and that whole shopping center, we own that shopping center. We know that market. All the apartments behind it, we know that market. We built those. The school behind it, we donated the land to Orange County to build that school. So we're invested in Horizons West. Here, this is not a school property. The schools are planned out here in Horizon West. We're paying impact fees for the schools to be built. We're paying for the roads to be built. The traffic issue, long term, we will create less traffic than what could go here. Short term, yes, there's some pain on that road, I understand it, but we have the right to build on this property. We're not deprived of our right to build on this property because the roads haven't caught up with the land. We're not gonna sit 10 years and wait on it. Just like your home that you live in did not wait for the roads to get widened. It was built so you could use it. It's the same thing that happens here. As far as the retail, I appreciate your opinion. I'm an expert at that. I do tons and tons of retail. I know Horizons West. I've got a lot of shopping centers in Horizons West. With what's happening up the street, this would not be successful and we would not be able to lease it out. And I know what's going on because I'm negotiating with Disney on some of it. So we're familiar with that. We own the corner of Seidel and Avalon. We own where the New York Beer Project is. We built that project. We have our pulse on the market of what retail will work here. And Orange County wants more housing. We're providing more housing. It does not need more retail in this market with what's going in. If you investigate what Disney's doing just up the street in the shopping center that's under construction today, there is a plethora of new retail coming in. As far as the traffic, like I said, 287 less trips when this is developed than what could go on this property.
To the owners, what I would say is,
Well, we're
if all the
partners
traffic
on it.
studies work, then all of these major roads would have no traffic issues. They don't
That's
all
not
work.
true.
There's assumptions that go into it, okay?
That's not true.
And that assumptions cost a life up the road on Avalon.
The
I've
traffic
asked you
studies
guys
are accurate.
To consider that, please, for us.
The traffic studies are accurate. It's, as the commissioner said, the roads unfortunately take longer to get done than private development. We pay into that to get those built. Let me tell you, we would love the roads to be done first because it makes this more successful. It's not. Development always is ahead of the roads. That's just, I've lived here my whole life in Orange County and that's,
Wait, but let me, so it's a little more complex than that, right? Because as part of the negotiations for any of these things, and I mean, we're talking about going back many, many, many years, the threshold by which the developer contributes to the road, and by the way, the school property isn't donated, it's kind of required if you're gonna bring in family housing, and especially in a sector plan like right. So there's, a certain threshold that they negotiate, that what percentage of completion that they are gonna be paying in, because they need, in order to have, the incoming, the funds available for their public participation, they needed to have sold a certain number of things. So it is a delicate balancing act in their bottom line. And I think that ends up being the tension that we hear a lot of times. The application team to process that and see if you can work with our residents. I think we've had good successes coming to things that were a win-win for everybody. But that only works if you say, that's not my problem, which is what I'm a little bit hearing from you.
Well, no.
So what I want you to do is just kind of keep your mind open right now to what they're saying and some of the considerations about the things that they're seeing change from the plan that they were told was going to be there, right? So that if you checked, what they had looked at, if they went into property appraisers or to some of the planning maps that showed them what was coming, anything that alters that to some extent, they feel like they should be able to give some feedback on. So understanding you have the right to do a project there at the highest and best use, but also asking to be a good neighbor. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
no, of course not. And I'm trying to explain from being a lifelong Orange County resident and being an expert in this business, what works and what doesn't work. So, the issues I'm hearing are essentially traffic, schools, and use. And as far as the traffic, I think we went through that about the trip reduction. As far as the use, I'm not going to build something that won't be successful. I know you have your opinion, it will be. I've got tons of stuff under construction. I know the market. I know what's coming in the market in depth. Own a lot of property in this market, and I'm not going to build something that I feel we won't be able to rent out the space and that will have blacked out storefronts based on the competition that's coming in the market. So, I thought this was an easy neighborhood meeting. I thought we walked in and said, gee, we're contributing less to the schools, less people into the schools than what we could. So we're impacting the schools less. We're impacting the traffic less than the density I could build on the property. And it's a needed development of housing in Orange County. So I thought I was walking in here, this is a win-win-win. Generally, I'll never walk into a neighborhood meeting having them say, will you build more commercial and create more trips on the road? That's generally not what happens in these meetings. And like I said, I'm a retail developer, I'm a residential developer, I'm an apartment developer, I'm a hotel developer. And if I could come in here and put retail on this and it'd be successful, I'd just do it. I mean, why wouldn't I? It's just not going to work here, and I know it's not gonna work, and I'm not gonna be a case study and go build it and come here 3 years from now and say, see, I told you it wouldn't work. Because I just know we can't lease it up here because of what's happening in the marketplace here. So, we've designed a less dense plan than if you were to go down to Orange County and say, how many units are going here? We have less units than that are going here. As far as the road, yes, we have to work with the county, pay our impact fees, but, this road is going to be widened. It's not gonna be as widened as fast as any of us want it, but, we're doing the best we can on all of that. Yes, sir?
How many units are timeshare in the Sutton development?
There's none, I'm sure.
None.
Oh,
Originally, I stated that wrong at the beginning.
Oh, I
Originally,
know,
it was
I have from 20 years ago, I have the literature here. How many are?
No, it was originally entitled for timeshare resort development.
Yeah.
However, in 2014, they changed the future land use designation to establish the current development program of the 700 single-family homes and 20,000 square feet of commercial.
Okay, I
So,
misunderstood that.
Yeah, the evolution of it, that's where I started. Originally, it was
no,
it
there's
was
no
a lot of
timeshare at this
timeshare.
time.
And it was.
Oh, I know, it was 800 units.
Yeah, it was 800
2003.
timeshare to 700 residential.
Yes.
And then, we just can't fit 700 residential on there unless we built it all apartments. But we just didn't think that was the best use. We wanted to create a community that had a use of estate
Yeah, I mean,
homes and townhomes.
We
and
know it's
apartments.
coming, it's unstoppable. The growth machine is gonna happen no matter what. We just need it to be done as best as possible.
Did you say 700 single-family homes or 700?
So, single family today and 20,000 square feet of
Oh, yeah.
commercial. Those are the current entitlements. So,
253.
well, the proposal is to change the mix. So they're proposing to introduce multifamily as a permitted use. And so they would be looking at, then instead of 700 single-family units, it would be 253 single-family units, which would be a mix of single-family
Apartments.
attached and detached. Then 304 multifamily units, apartments. And then they're proposing to retain the 20,000 square feet of commercial that they're already entitled for. So it would be changing the entitlement mix within the existing PD. So, but they're already entitled for the combination of residential and commercial today.
And we're willing to give up to 20,000 feet,
Yes.
which even reduces the trips more, because we don't intend on doing it. But, we've talked with the county about that the county may want to buy this land from us here to do a retention pond, or if they need a piece for a fire station, that's
We've
available.
got
something
more,
like
we've got
that.
more coming.
Loving it.
Yeah, they're already there. They're promising. I will send you the map.
So,
Land purchase, building.
well, that's all conversations. I mean, we did have a conference call with them and sent it to the county, because, as a matter of fact, for the road widening, that's why we had the call, is because they're widening this road and they thought they may need more property, so we had a conversation with them.
You said that you're reducing the population density. You said it's zoned for 700 single-family homes and then commercial.
And the
And
commercial.
then you said, but I can't fit 700 single-family homes in there, so I'm going to change it to add 300 apartments and then 200 single-family homes. But if you kept the plan the same and you couldn't fit 700, the number's not really 700 that would go in there. It's just whatever you could fit of single-family homes.
Well, no,
So that's a little bit of misnomer.
Well, they just go up a story.
we would go up.
Yeah,
We can fit
they'll just
seven.
add on, and then I got, who knows, looking into my pool.
The properties in
But
town.
but it's zoned
Yeah.
for still single-family. I mean, it would be a
Well,
concept
no.
attached.
No, it's zoned for single family.
Single
We
family.
could do attached, and we could put more density in here. So we're building below the density. If you told me, go back and draw 700 homes in there, I guarantee tomorrow by 10 o'clock in the morning, she'll have me a plan that shows 700 houses in there. That's not the best plan we thought to go here. We thought this was a nice transitional plan. It's nice for the neighborhoods around us that they've got estate homes through here. We've got townhomes. I mean, it steps from estate to townhomes to apartments. And so we thought it was a nice mix. We're trying to build, if you go through Horizon West, we built a lot of nice communities. I mean, we do a good job. And, we spent, 8 months to come up with the right plan with the staff at the county, a plan that they liked, that they thought was a great transitional plan, that it's got water features all throughout it, it's got walking paths, it's got a park, we've got a park right here.
Still no water usage for Rexford and Scott, correct?
Water use.
Water usage as far as jet skis, fishing?
Oh, no,
Nothing.
No, there's nothing on the lake. So we've meticulously worked with staff our.
With our planning staff, yeah.
Yeah, Orange County planning staff, our own, us, trying to come up with the best plan. And yeah, we could go up stories. That's not what we want to do. I mean, we've worked hard. We think it's a nice plan. So,
You've heard some of our concerns. Any thought changes?
well,
Plan
there's no
changes?
thought changes on changing the plan. The thought is, have our conversations with the county on, seeing if the road, I don't know what the holdup is in the timing of the road. Maybe that's moved up some. I don't know. I haven't been to those meetings. The only meetings I've been to with the county have been on land acquisition and also figuring out retention pond, because they're designing the road right now, and it goes through a design process, then it goes through an RFP process, then it goes through a construction process. And I've seen those processes move up. They're hard though. It's just a big process
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
we
deal
just,
with.
we just had the most final design update, and we can share, obviously, but it is something that the timeline was laid out in that.
And usually the challenge with that timeline is the land and the property for them to be able to widen and get that right of way. So that was what I think Chuck was talking about earlier. We had a meeting with Orange County Traffic, now twice, to talk through at least what we're able to control, which is this property. And so we've talked through, as what Chuck was saying, they have a need for a pond to serve, they need to put their pond that serves the roadway drainage, that needs to go somewhere, and they identified these two sites as that potential location. So, but they obviously don't own those sites, and it's hard for them to be able to acquire that to do it. So we've been having those meetings with traffic in a way to brainstorm on how we can help with this development, potentially looking at ways to do a joint stormwater use for both our development and provide the land that they need for the road. So, to your point, we completely understand the traffic request. And so as part of that request, at least for the part that's in our control, we've also been trying to have those meetings to help them identify that, because until they can identify the land they need for the right-of-way they need, or for the infrastructure they need for the ponds, that also slows down the process for them building these roads.
I'm glad you brought that up with the stormwater, because just with the construction going on Hartzog and everything, they're dry welling the ground. They're pumping the water out in order to lay the cable underground and all, and I understand all that. But it's all being pumped into a sinkhole that the aquifer feeds Rexford, Scott, and Chapman. And our lakes have never been this high with no rain. I mean, it's creeping up to people's back doors. And I'm glad to see on that lower graph there that you've got a lot of retention ponds. We can only just hope that it runs that way and not to the lake.
Yeah.
Because when the construction goes on, I mean, I've been on enough job sites in my life, 3, 4, 5 feet of sand is normal to be added. And we're gonna end up, our homes were built in the 80s, 90s. We're gonna just flood. And that is a big concern.
Understood. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't speak to that other project. I'm not familiar with what that contractor is doing.
But
But I
I-
can tell you, as far as our stormwater requirements and we've got to meet state and local criteria.
Yep.
And all of that is currently, being reviewed, and honestly, there's a few rule changes that have occurred as far as the water management
And there's more
district.
coming.
That's brand new, and there's more coming, so, we'll be required to meet all of those standards. And,
But I can tell you, she's a smart girl. She's worked on hundreds of my projects. We've never had one flood. Not one.
All right.
Not one project in Orange County.
Well, if anybody rewinds to
I
like,
cannot believe you just said that out loud.
I know, right?
Hey, knock on wood, but
If anybody
I've never had one of my
rewinds, which I
projects
think
called
that's-
Save Me Flooding.
concern of yours, Teresa Jacobs,
Yeah, well, it's,
she was in our neighborhood in 2003
we talk about it all the time.
because we had 3 feet of water everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
It just rained so hard
And, I mean, they are.
and the
reviewing right
runoff
now
came
the
to us. That is a concern, because when it's done and people have a foot of water in their houses, oh, you should have had flood insurance.
Well, and there's
That's
something
how
that,
it goes.
as we move down the line, we can discuss also, which has been applied in areas, and Horizon West actually has the perfect environment for it in some places, depending on the topography, is low impact development, which actually has less impermeable surface. So if you've ever noticed at the shopping center in Hamlin, the Publix there, and I think that maybe across the street, that you don't see a retention pond, that there's actually kind of they look like little troughs with pebbles. It looks like landscaping.
Sure.
But they have less impermeable surface, so you don't get as much runoff. And so we're trying, one of the other things that's coming out of the county, hopefully, because I've been working on it for over a year now, is a manual that we can give and utilize for low-impact development where they're not, the formula at the end is putting off less stormwater runoff. Because we got to figure this out. We're just, with the increased use of the roads and pavement, there's just more runoff. And it's not good for our water bodies, and it's happening faster, and it's not being able to get absorbed quicker. So there's a lot going on separate from this. But, it'd be nice now that we have kind of some people in the room that are part of, the development team, that we can, maybe talk about low impact development options, or that manual, or what was used in other parts of Horizon West if the, timing is right down the road.
Yeah, no, actually, in our developments generally, we do more than less. We provide, because we use these as amenities, because these houses will pay more to be on the water. So we generally have more stormwater areas than what are required. It's like, I find it amazing sometimes when we go to staff meetings and a lot of developers will bring in and not put parks and things in there. We always do that. We don't have to be told to do it because, people want parks where they can go play kickball with their kids and do things like that. So we generally go beyond what's required because we know that's what people want to live in and will pay more to do it. So we amenitize the communities with more water features. We put fountains in the ponds. We make parks. We make walking trails and do things like that because it's where you want to live. If we went and tried to cram every single piece of density that could go on this piece of property and eliminated some of the water, like
I understand that. You could go.
yeah, it just makes it a nicer community. So, we do that. We're holding more water than we're required to. But, you can look at it. It comes out to be a nice community.
What is the setback now from the 100-year water high mark on Lake Rexford to the actual structure of those, what do you call them,
So
the
the
homes?
established lake elevation, I believe, has a 125-foot setback.
Okay, so off the 100-year high water mark,
So there's a difference. There's a normal water level elevation that Orange County has established in their lake index for an elevation, and then there's the 100-year elevation. But as
Okay.
far as the setbacks from the homes from the 100-year, in terms of, I guess you're asking as far as flooding.
well, no, I'm also asking about cutting all the cypress trees down and just the wildlife alone, the owls, everything, everything, all of Avalon, construction has chased off so much wildlife, it's not even funny. Every time something gets built north of me, I've got roodles of wild boars, hogs, you name it. But that's just the times we live in. But it'd be sad to see all those beautiful cypress trees get cut down. I don't know. I know they proposed walkways years ago through the trees.
Well, I can tell you,
We'll see,
we're
I
not
guess.
cutting down all the trees. We always try to save trees. We like trees. Whenever we landscape in Orange County, we're generally double or triple what code is for landscaping, because we want our developments nice. And we play by the rules. Orange County's got regulations of what we can do, and we play by those rules.
I was gonna say
So-
that, it's not at this level, but when there's discussion about any shoreline alteration, EPD's in the room.
Well, there would be no shoreline
There's
alteration
no
whatsoever.
right, but even a cypress tree tells me that there might, where that is, there may be some consideration that,
Because I'm not allowed to alter my
Right,
shoreline,
No.
so why would they be allowed
no,
to?
everyone plays by the same rules for that, exactly. It is, and it's, an important thing for us to, we talk about it anytime I have any applicant come in about, okay, have they, what's the CAD on the property, was there any, are there any conservation easements in place? And
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to
EPD
preserve all that,
tonight,
because, at the end of the day, people like that. They like the nice trees, and when we
Sure.
can preserve them, we do. Sometimes what happens on these developments, which is frustrating to people, I just built a big one on Apopka Island Road, they come in and they see us saw cut every tree off the development. Then I get phone calls and say, why did you remove every tree off that development? Because if I didn't, it's gonna flood out. Because we have to raise them to elevation so they don't flood, so we can create retention. And sometimes if the land's depressed, we've got to create these retention ponds, and we have no choice.
Yeah, but all the properties on the south side of Rexford and Scott will be lower.
Well, no, we have to create water to stay on our property.
Okay.
And that's why we
I
do
can't
it, to
wait
be
to
able to
see
create the
that.
depressions. And so.
And the
you know,
fertilizer and all
but-
that too,
but
because
we try to-
Rexford, one of the cleanest lakes in Florida 20 years
And
ago.
we're not allowed to drain it. But we do try to preserve trees when we can. I'm always telling Jennifer, can we save this, can we save that? One, it costs me money to remove them. Two, if you get a big, beautiful oak or cypress, they're generally attractive in the community. So, you know, we do go out of our way.
Yeah,
to
but
try
we
to
all
save
know
those.
how the bulldozers work. They chop it, they throw a few tires in there and just burn it all. Okay, I mean, my neighborhood smells like smoke for the last 5 months because of all the other properties that are already underway. I mean,
I
it is
promise
what
you,
it
we won't
is.
build any burn any tires.
Oh, they
Yeah,
do.
if we're not allowed to, but. we
Trust
won't.
me. Then you
Actually,
need to
totally
wander
side
up
on that.
on one of them job sites. They fill those tires with diesel
Oh, my gosh.
and throw 3 or 4 of them in there. How do you think they burn all that brush?
So,
Sir, you need to actually go there at 7 a.m. when they start.
hang on though, time out for 1 second. I gotta tell you, the reality is, the last week, for those of you that live out here that had that heavy smoke, we were in touch with fire and rescue, and it was actually controlled burns in the green swamp.
Well, that was just last week.
Yes, the one last week where we had that blanket that was
I'm
here.
talking
Yeah, no, I
2 or 3 weeks ago, the property across from the Sutton Lakes development, outrageous. We had embers and ashes on all our cars, on the pool water, because we had northwest wind, or northwest north. And I drove up there, and it's amazing. Their bulldozers just push everything in there, and you can smell the diesel fuel burning. Yeah,
Well, I can tell you in Orange County,
it works for
Yeah.
them. They're land clearers, they're developers.
there's no lack of people in Orange County that telling us if we do something
well,
wrong.
I was gonna say, call 911 next time you
Yeah.
smell
Yeah.
fuel and you smell smoke, because that isn't supposed to be like that.
They won't respond to
Well,
that.
they did, I mean, they responded to me directly about because I was really concerned that something like that was going on. There was some report that came in that there was pieces of plastic in it. And they sent back information to me about there was a 2,000 acre controlled burn in the Green Swamp and the Kissimmee River. So those were different, but if you see it or
Oh,
smell
they
it,
didn't pay attention to the wind.
call my office.
Seriously, they didn't pay attention.
No, they don't, yeah, exactly, they can't always predict when those change.
They will come out there. And the last thing I want to do is stand in front of this commissioner or the other ones and say we did something wrong, because that affects me for every future commission. So we don't do things wrong. You know, we do what we're supposed to do, and we do a lot of projects in Orange County, and I'm not going to let any guys who work for me, site work contractors, or anybody jeopardize that relationship.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that won't happen at our property, I can tell you that.
Well, next time I'll
And
take a
if
few
so,
pictures.
call and tell on us.
Great, well, I was
And-
gonna say, we'll try to make sure that it's, yeah.
Are there any other questions?
You mentioned a change to the comprehensive plan. Does that just apply for these land plots, or is it a more broad amendment to the comprehensive plan?
No, these requests are specific to these properties. So the meeting that we're having tonight concerns the proposed Sutton Lakes development and then the proposed Sutton Grande project. So like I said, the Sutton Grande project is the request to change the future land use designation from commercial to growth center, planned development, medium high density residential. For the Sutton Lakes project, there's no change to the future land use designations that are already on the property. That will stay as growth center, planned development, commercial, medium density residential rather, low density residential, but they're proposing to change the mix of uses on the site.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. We have, it's gonna take us, well, just to tell you on the timeline too, I know we're talking about how long it takes to build a road. We've got another year to finish up this process, county meetings and everything, a year. And then we've got 2 years to build the development. So 3 years from now is when we're looking at that we would have the first people sleeping at these things. And so if that is of any help, it is down the road quite a bit. So
That'll be built in phases.
The houses, not the apartments, but the houses will be, and yes, they're not gonna come online like that. That takes time to do as well.
Of course.
So,
So what are your phases looking like?
it's not being
Oh,
done
that's
as a
not
phased
set yet?
development. It's just based on market demand. Obviously, you don't come out of the ground with this many homes at one
No,
time.
of course not.
It's just, they roll. So, but we're permitting it as one project, not
Okay.
as a phased project. So I appreciate you all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to wrap it up, just if you don't, or if you're a resident, or anybody, if you don't get my newsletter, we try to make sure that we get all this information out. Anything that I have from an applicant or, any project developments that are happening, I try really hard to make sure that we're sharing those. I know that there's sometimes an interpretation that it's coming from my office. It's coming from, a landowner who wants to, or a developer who wants to work on a project, and we just try to be a facilitator as that moves forward in the process, because it can be complicated. And I think, it's important for my office to try to help navigate the complexities for our residents and connect you with staff if need be, or connect you with somebody that can answer the questions if we can't. And then the BCC, where this will be, I think the first public hearing is on March 7th.
So I have the contact information. If you didn't receive a flyer, then I have copies of both up front. So my contact information is on both flyers, as is Commissioner Wilson's. You also have the contact information for the mayor and each of the other county commissioners. So if you have questions, yes. So if you have questions or concerns that you think of later after this meeting, just please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we will get that information to you.